Welcome back. President Tharman Shanmugaratnam today accepted the resignation of outgoing Prime Minister Hsien and endorsed the appointment of Mr. Lawrence Wong as the successor. Mr. Tharman met Mr. Lee and Mr. Wong separately at the Istana today. That's where they exchanged a series of letters to formalise the leadership handover. In a Facebook post after the event, Mr. Tharman thanked Mr. Lee for 4 decades of selfless service in government, including 20 years as Prime Minister. He says that Mr. Lee has proven to be an exceptional leader both in normal times and during major threats and crises. Mr. Tharman says that through Mr. Lee's leadership, Singaporeans are able to stand tall and united through good times and bad. Referring to the incoming Prime Minister, Mr. Tharman says that he has watched Mr. Wong grow as a leader over the past 2 decades. He believes that Mr. Wong will make an excellent Prime Minister in what he describes as the changing times to come. In his resignation letter to the President, PM Lee says that Mr. Wong is ready to lead Singapore. He has formally advised President Tharman to invite Mr. Wong to form the next government. In his written reply to Mr. Lee, Mr. Tharman says that Mr. Lee has helped advance a vibrant and more diversified economy and strengthen Singapore's social safety nets during his tenure. And in his letter to invite Mr. Wong to form the next government, Mr. Tharman notes that the incoming Prime Minister commands the confidence of the majority of MPs. Mr. Wong has replied, saying he is pleased to accept the appointment. Joining me again for more insights is Associate Professor in Practice, Terence Ho. He is from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at NUS. Professor, the outgoing Prime Minister, Mr. Hsien Loong, he will remain in Cabinet as a senior minister. He becomes Singapore's 7th senior minister. Of course, there's also Hsien who will stay on as senior minister. These are 2 Goliaths in terms of experience, in terms of stewardship for Singapore, for Mr. Wong to tap onto in terms of their expertise, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, well, it's quite clear that the new leader, the new Prime Minister, will be the man in charge in making the decisions. There's considerable value, I believe, in having the senior ministers offer their experience and their perspectives on issues. I think the senior ministers can also play a key role in mentoring the younger political leaders. They have, over the years, built up very strong networks, personal relationships with international foreign leaders, which the government can tap on. And this is something I think PM Lee also mentioned. And I think the senior ministers there will just provide the additional assurance to observers in Singapore and outside that the incoming leadership has the experience and the nous to deal with any challenges that may arise.
At the same time, Mr. Lee will stay on in his role as chairman of the Research, Innovation and Enterprise Council. This is an important body that essentially drives the sort of narrative and the path that we take by way of transformation, by way of the future of Singapore's landscape with innovation and so on. Why is that role going to be so important for Mr. Lee to continue to play?
So this is a role that is really critical for Singapore as a knowledge economy and our future economic growth and competitiveness. I think this is an area where Mr. Lee has already been involved deeply in and has much experience and expertise to continue. And given that the incoming Prime Minister will have so much on his plate as well, I think it makes a lot of sense for PM Lee to continue in this role.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Ho. Well, Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says that the process to assess political office holders for promotions started even before he came into the picture.
The process would have started with PM Lee already engaging the ministers. We do this every year. We ask ministers to assess, to consider the junior officers they work with, and then we assess the list of names, and the Prime Minister will eventually make the decision whether or not to promote any particular office holder. This is a regular, usual process. This year, because of the transition and the handover, PM Lee had engaged me early on and we had discussed. And so it's really a together, both of us have together decided on the promotions for this round.
Well, Mr. Wong adds that promoting any office holder is a sign that they have done well in their present roles and can contribute at a higher capacity. But he also says that regardless of their positions, it's the collective effort that matters.
A promotion today doesn't mean an automatic promotion in the future. I mean, in the end, whether or not one can perform at a larger capacity, a larger role, will in the end depend on the individual, how they go about doing their, exercising their responsibilities, the impact they have in terms of the work they do, both the community impact as well as the national impact, and how they go about working, getting things done, delivering on the goals and the outcomes that they have been assigned. So we will continue to evaluate, but every member of the team, regardless of the role they have, every member of the team is valuable. Each one has a critical role to play.
Well, Mr. Lawrence Wong has also pledged to continue looking for ways to engage the public and harness the collective strength of Singaporeans to take the nation forward. Let's have a listen.
We will also think of other platforms where we can engage with the public directly. Overall, I would certainly look at going forward, wanting to think of ways we can harness the collective energies of every Singaporean to take Singapore forward in an environment which will be in many ways more challenging because of the geopolitical cross currents that we face. But if you think about this, Singapore's success has never been about just one individual or one institution either. It's really about all of us working together as one united people.
Professor Ho, getting back to you now, it is interesting, DPM Wong making clear there that some of the older ministers are likely to retire either at the end of their term, but he also made clear that he's also actively looking for some fresh blood, for people perhaps in their 30s and 40s to serve as potential office holders. What do you make of that?
I think people in their 30s and 40s would be those who have already established themselves in their careers, so they have some track record. At the same time, they still have a considerable runway in politics, so I think this is a good group to target. I'm sure the party has already been actively engaging some of them, and many of them would be on the ground, and perhaps this is a nudge for them, for some of them who are still deciding whether or not to take the plunge in politics to step forward.
So they have a longer runway, but is it also because they have fresher ideas?
I think there's always a need for continuity and renewal at the same time. So those with more experience and insights from the past, as well as people coming in with different set of experiences, I think there would be very good complements.
Okay, so the incoming Prime Minister as well and his team, they are going to take the oath of office on Wednesday night at the Istana. How quickly do you think they're going to set about, getting to work as a team? We've got some new appointments in there, and all eyes are really on what we anticipate to be the next general election. It has to be called before November next year.
Well, certainly the team would have to begin the work very quickly. But I think as for the question of when the general election will be, for someone from the outside, I think it's very much an open question. Some arguments for holding it this year would be that it would give the incoming PM a sort of fresh mandate to get down to the business of governance quickly. And I think the party could also ride on the considerable appreciation that Singaporeans have for the outgoing PM. And I think the electorate may be prepared to give the new leader a chance. On the other hand, holding it next year, perhaps after the budget, would give more time for the new PM to settle into his role as the Prime Minister as well as party leader, and then marshal his people for the contest.
Well, they'll certainly be keeping their ear close to the ground to see when the right time should be. Professor Ho, thank you very much for that. I've been speaking there to Associate Professor Terence Ho from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at NUS. A CNA spoke to Mr. Desmond Tan and Mr. Mural, who have been promoted by incoming Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. Mr. Tan says that his upcoming promotion to Senior Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office is an encouragement for him to keep serving the country. He will continue to serve the National Trades Union Congress, where he is Deputy Secretary General.
I've been in the labour movement for almost 2 years. I feel that it is a very important movement to support our workers to ensure they have good wages, welfare and work prospect, and also to strengthen the tripartism that's been the foundation of our economic growth, and to ensure that our workers and our economy continue to do well for Singapore.
Well, for Mr. Mural, he will be appointed he will be appointed Minister of State in the Law and Transport Ministries. He is the chair of the Home Affairs and Law Government Parliamentary Committee, and he is also an advisor to the National Transport Workers Union. Now, with that experience, he says that he's confident in taking on his new role and looks forward to working under Mr. Wong.
I'm really excited because DPM's approach in governing is to listen to as wide as views as possible and then come to an agreement on the way to go, recognizing the shared responsibilities of all the stakeholders.